I hope that today you will welcome our two speakers from Operation Starfish. It's Anne Blight and Craig Hammond. Are you there?
Thank you, President David. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Anne Blight, and I'm going to talk to you very briefly a little about myself and about the Starfish Project. I will keep it brief because the most important person you're going to hear is sitting to my left. I went into speech therapy a very, very long time ago. I wanted to focus on stammering and help people mainly who stammered. I wanted to work with them, I suppose, and other people with speech problems, but it was stammering that was my passion. For most people, when you talk about stammering, their reaction is something like, well, yes, I'm sure it's a bit of a problem, but it's really nothing to be too concerned about. I mean, sight, hearing, walking, I understand completely what they're saying. And we all, myself included, take speaking for granted. You open your mouth and the words come out. But for 1% plus of the population, that doesn't happen. And we are judged, sadly, by the way we communicate. We present ourselves when we communicate and when we smile. And it's the most beautiful thing in the world to have a conversation. But for people who stammer, more often than not, the easiest things that we take for granted are the most difficult for them. Saying their own name and address, ordering their own food, a train ticket. Could stand here all day and tell you the debilitating, humiliating, and embarrassing situations that people have been in because they stammer. Many of you will know, I'm sure, and remember the late King George VI who stammered. I'm extremely honoured to have a letter from the late Queen Mother congratulating us on some work we did on the television and saying she obviously knew of our work. The late King was taught a breathing technique by a gentleman called Lionel Logue. And it became very evident to me, because I wanted to make a difference to people, for people who stammer, to give them some control over this thing that was controlling them. And I could see someone like Craig for half an hour every 3 weeks and make no difference to his life at all. But Lionel Logue taught the King to breathe in a different way. Every person who stammers can sing without stammering. They can shout. So what does that say? They're breathing from a costal breath high here in the chest area. You all yawn and use a costal breath to do so. There's no cure for stammering, but putting the breath with other aspects of the technique meant, or I hoped it meant 12 years ago, that we could teach people to breathe and speak in a different way. And that's what we do on the Starfish Project. For 3 days, once a month, on a residential course, people come to Starfish. They're very small courses. I'm very, very proud and honoured to say that we are non-profit making, and the people who teach this technique are the people who use it, because nobody can teach better than someone who's walked 1,000,000 miles in someone who's stammered shoes. When we started the project, it was just one lady in our dining room. We now only have 10, maybe 12 people on a course, but there are so many refreshers who come back to work with these new people. I'm going to show you a short video of a gentleman who came on the course a while ago. He has a hugely successful job. He's a chief engineer for the Le Mans racing team, and achieved that with a very severe stammer. I'm going to show you his first day and then his third day, We always take a video of people and then send it to them. It's important they know where they've come from and where they're going. So I'm going to show you this very short video, first of all. Thank you.
And the name is Paul. Brown.
Thank you, Paul. Address?
12. It's 12 Newton Close. Wakefield. Paul Brown, 12 Newton Close, Wakefield, WF1 2QG. Now that I've found the voice that's always been inside me, I don't really know what to say. So I just want to say to myself that I feel I've done so well over the last few days. I don't want to become complacent and think that I can go home and stay like this without any work. So I always need to work on my technique and breathing, and I intend to come back on the course when I can. And I'd like to thank everybody for the help and support. Today's date is the 29th of January 2010.
I just need to tell you that that gentleman went home and had a conversation with his family that he'd never been able to have, and that's huge for me, and of course for him. Thank you, President David, for inviting us here. I cannot begin to tell you what a huge honour it is. It's a real privilege. I would also just like to take 1 second to say thank you to District Governor David Hodge. Without him, we wouldn't have gone to the Jersey conference and received such a warm welcome as we're receiving here. But I do thank you, because that's how we've become, how we're here, and I'm very privileged, as I say. Going to show you just a final short video, of course, of Craig, and then I'll introduce him to you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Craig. And your address, please?
That's number 11, Barnsley Avenue. South. Near. Near. Pontefract, West Yorkshire.
Thank you very much indeed. What do you do, Craig? What's your job?
I make UPVC windows.
Right. What's the name of the company?
They are called Penny and Sons.
Thank you. How did you hear about the course?
I
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Craig Hammond.
Good afternoon. Could you bear with me, please, while I'm speaking? I use a breathing technique. It was a Sunday evening. It was a Sunday evening. Me and my little boy had just got out of the bath. And we got settled down to watch some TV. I was flicking through the channels and we came across Open All Hours. If there's anybody in the audience who's never heard of Open All Hours, there's a guy called Arkwright who's got a stammer, played by Ronnie Barker. After watching this for a couple of minutes, my son turned round and looked at me. And he said to me, "Daddy, when I get to be a big mister, I want to speak like that big mister on TV." My reply to my son was, "No, you don't, sunshine. Life's difficult when you speak like that." My son put his hand on my arm. He was 5. And he looked at me with his little blue eyes. And he said to me, "Daddy, when I get to be a big mister, I do want to speak like that mister on TV. Because when I grow up, Daddy, I want to be just like you." My dad says that I stammered as soon as I started speaking. My first memory is when I was in a primary school play and it was my turn to speak. All the mums and dads were watching. All the teachers were watching. And all my peers were watching. And for what seemed like an eternity, I could not get any word out whatsoever. I was around 8 years old. To my embarrassment, I ran off stage. And I guess at that point, you could say that was ending my acting career. It is a brief one, so I'm going to move on to high school now. As soon as my mum or dad shouted me on a morning to get up for school, before I opened my eyes, I would be thinking of how I was going to pay my bus fare today. How am I going to force the word out? Which trick am I going to use? Would it be the tap dance? Would I have to punch my leg to force the word out? whichever one it was, all the other pupils on the bus and sometimes the bus driver would be in hysterics, laughing. Then after that, it will register. I was going to say, "Here, sir," today. Which trick was I going to use? I used to get kicked out of class because some teachers thought I was trying to be the class clown. But sometimes I enjoyed it outside in the cold, dark corridors. It meant that I didn't have to speak to anyone. I remember going on a date with the prettiest girl in school. She asked me for a date. I thought it was a joke. Why would anybody want to go on a date with me? But I did. And all the way through it, I was doing my tap dance routine. I was punching my leg to try and force the words out. God only knows what was going through her mind. But I managed to get a good night kiss. And I skipped all the way home. Went back to school next day. Went up to this girl. Spoke to her. And she called me a weirdo. And she said that I don't want to see you anymore. You're a freak. I can remember having these Richmond tests at school. They were for intelligence. 3 pupils out of 300 to 400 got top marks. I was one of those pupils. But I left school with no qualifications. I got undiscovered. The teachers only saw what you saw on the big screen. They didn't look that little bit further. By the time I'd left school, I was mixing in some unhealthy circles. Sniffing gas, sniffing petrol, smoking cannabis, getting drunk. On leaving school and going out into the big wide world, I got into some more unhealthy circles, and the drugs got a little bit harder. Ecstasy, cocaine. It made me feel normal. It numbed all the pain that I used to experience on a daily basis because I could not communicate. I could not speak my own name. I took menial jobs that nowhere near stimulated me. When I was 24, my son was born. Blaise Kieran Ronan Hammond, my boy. I can remember the first words I said to him. I cradled him in my hands and I said, "Son, keep away from my hi-fi and my CDs, and we'll get on fine. I was absolutely determined to be the best dad I could be. There was no way I was going to fail as a dad. I'd failed at everything else. I was okay with speaking with Blaze. I could get away with making baby noises and things until he reached about 4, 5. Then he realised that I couldn't speak properly. I couldn't read my son a bedtime story. As hard as I tried, I just could not read my son a story. I used to drink bottle after bottle of Bacardi to numb the pain that caused me. I've been beat up, I've been battered. The pain I've experienced comes nowhere near. I knew I had to do something about it at that point. And if you take anything, any little thing away from my time on this stage, please let it be. What a gift. What a gift it is to be able to read your children a bedtime story, something as simple as that. What an amazing gift that is. A gift that not all of us have always been able to do. It was time to do something about it. I'd heard about the Starfish Project that were helping to change people's lives, giving them some control over the speech. I hummed and hawed for quite a while because I was scared. I didn't want to fail again. But my son, it was the love for my son and the passion I had inside me to be able to read him a bedtime story. I gave Anne a call, booked on a course, determined, ready to do something about it. I found myself in Hailsham, near Eastbourne, on a 3-day intensive speech course, the Starfish Project. The first words that Anne says, it's not a cure. We teach you a breathing technique, some positive thinking, and we'll try to help you to think differently about yourself and your stomach. Those 3 days are up there with the birth of my son. Since the course, I've not spent any time locked up, getting into trouble. But the best thing that I come away with, and I'm a man, I can show me emotions, I'm big enough. Now, they taught me how to smile again. They gave me my smile back. I'd not done any smiling for quite a few years. Have a guess what I did when I went home? Read my son a bedtime story called Fox in Socks by Dr. Seuss. And that moment in that bedroom is the most powerful experience, the most humble experience, the best experience I have ever had in my whole life. Nobody can take that away from me. I've achieved a little bit more as well. I've done some radio interviews, been in newspapers, been on TV. I've won a couple of public speaking awards. If you put all them together, times them by 1,000, they still don't come anywhere near to reading them a story. I left school with no qualifications. I think I mentioned that earlier. I'm really proud of myself. I can stand on this stage today and tell you brilliant people that I've nearly completed my first year at Leeds Metropolitan University doing a BA Honours degree. I'd like to thank Anne Blight, David Blight, Mark Callard, and Steve Middleton. I do struggle, I do lose control sometimes. But when we leave the Starfish Project, we get a list of 100 people. We're all doing the same thing. We can phone each other up at any time, any place, middle of the night, and we're there for each other. And it's, again, all thanks to Anne Blight, the founder of the Starfish Project, who's changed thousands of people's lives. I'd like to leave with a quote. It's not the size of the man or the woman in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the man or the woman. Thank you very much for listening.